ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the one, only Sarah Renee. Sarah Renee Show, live on Smooth 90.5 FM. Ladies and gentlemen, give us a call at 630-215-8582. 630-215-8582. Smooth 90.5 FM. This is the Sarah Renee Show.
Hey, Chicago, I'm back. Welcome and thank you so much for listening to the Sarah Renee Show on Smooth 90.5 FM HD Radio. Today, I have a couple of different topics that I want to talk to you guys about, but I do want to touch on one simple thing. I was just so happened to be in Bronzeville the other night, and I got stopped by a patron, and he said, "You know what, Sarah Renee, I listen to your show all the time. I just wanted to know if you can give me just a little bit of information on affordable housing and exactly what it is." And I'm going to go ahead and just touch it real quick. And I also want to just let you know what the rest of the show is going to be about. The show is going to be about becoming a landlord, moves, 7 smart moves for getting started as being a landlord. We have a special video about you want to be a landlord now and the pros and the cons to becoming this person. It's not necessarily something that always glitters and gold, but it can turn a profit, but you have to put in your time and your effort and your hard work. And then we're going to give you a short guide to managing your own rental yourself if you had to become your own property manager, if you will. So just to jump in, what is affordable housing? Now, this is something I had always been curious about before I got involved in real estate. But affordable housing is really housing that is considered affordable, in which it really doesn't take up more than 30% of your gross income to pay for your housing. So I know that there's a lot of people who may be with affordable housing or with Section 8. Section 8 and the voucher system is really just a tool that the government uses in order to create affordable housing. It's very similar, actually, to programs that the government offers for, let's say, like a first-time home buyer or an employer-assisted program. It's a very similar program to that, only they keep you in a certain realm. They keep you in a certain budget, which is not going to exceed about 30% of your gross income. So there is no specific look to an affordable housing home either. They're regular homes. It just kind of depends upon the seller. It depends upon the person who is trying to make this profit and working with the government at this particular time to make these properties suitable for someone that needs to use affordable housing. So as I said before, we're going to talk a little bit about becoming a landlord and what does that mean. So you decide, hey, I got a little bit of extra money and I want to go ahead and purchase a rental home. You want to kind of keep in mind a couple of things before you begin and you actually start spending your money. Becoming a landlord is not an easy thing to do. It's very difficult, and it's a job. It's something that you're going to have to put time and dedication into. And you also have people that you have to deal with, and these people are called your tenants. You want to make sure that you can have as happy of tenants as possible so that, they're orderly and they do things that you would want them to do, such as pay their rent on time. And if they have utilities that they need to take care of, that they pay those utilities as well. So just to jump in, being a landlord is not for everyone. If it's not for you, that's okay. There's another aspect of real estate that you can definitely jump into, but it's not for everyone. But it is. But today's rental market is growing. A lot of people are renting nowadays, and actually, it's risen since 2007 with individuals who are looking for rental properties rather than at certain points buying their own property. There are people who enjoy renting and love to make that phone call and say, hey, something is broken in the house. Can you come fix it? Rather than to just kind of fix it on their own and kind of maintain their lifestyle as someone who has purchased their own property. Just keep in mind that this is a long-term investment and it needs to be approached very carefully. Again, when we're picking tenants even, you want to make sure that you're picking good tenants. And good tenants meaning people who pay their rent on time. You don't want to necessarily pick someone that has issues with rent or, maybe even too many finance problems or issues. It will be up to you, definitely, if you decided to rent to a family member or a friend. But just keep in mind that this family member and friend sometimes realizes that they are family or friend, and they know that at times when they're maybe having a hardship or want to keep a little extra money around, that they can just give you a call and say, hey, I'm going to be late on the rent today. Can you give me a break? Can you extend me for a little while, or can you let me pay later? One thing we also have to keep in mind is that a rental property is still a single family home for the most part, and a mortgage is typically on that property that needs to be paid every month. So when you're calling your landlord and saying, oh, well, I'm late on the rent, and I just wasn't able to get everything together, now they're going to be late on their rent. And that's at times why there are such tumultuous things that are done in order to make sure that tenants are paying their rent. Such things as eviction will come up, 5-day notices, 3-day notices. Very embarrassing, actually, things. During my time as a property manager, I remember I had to pass out 5-day notices to individuals, and my job was actually to put the 5-day notice on their door. And I really feel like it was a to almost bring embarrassment to that person, because they're not paying their rent, and everyone in the neighborhood knows. So I'm out and I'm posting 5-day notices on doors, and I had a couple of clients come out their house and say, well, Sarah Renee, is there any way that you can just, fold up my 5-day notice and just put it in the mail or something like that? It's really embarrassing to have these notes on my door every month. And my answer to them, as fair, but it may not have sounded good to them at the time, but the best way to alleviate that 5-day notice is pretty much pay your rent. You have rent is due between the 1st and the 5th of the month, and this is common knowledge. Everyone should know this. And when you have an issue, you definitely want to talk to your landlord in advance and not wait until rent is actually due. Sometimes a conversation will help. But if you leave it off to the last minute and you really don't take it seriously, then you can be in danger of receiving a 5-day notice and possibly even eviction. So some smart moves that I have here is recognize that being a landlord is a business. It's not a friendship. It's strictly business. What you're extending, what you're offering is a place to live, and in return you're expecting to receive monies for that place that you're renting, be it money just for rent or money for the utility bills. That needs to be understood and needs to be respected. And again, when I talk about renting sometimes to family and friends, these are definitely at times situations in which people will try to take advantage of the situation. If you have to rent to your family because you just have to and it's a good thing to do, by all means, please do so. I don't want to say, well, Sarah Renee told me not to rent to you, but I'm just saying you kind of have to look at it in that way. When you have someone that has good credit who does not know you personally, the odds of them calling you asking for you to give them a break are pretty slim. So we want to just be familiar with that. And any property that you buy, it has to make sense as a business and not just because it's a house that's pretty or something that you would like to live in. So that's one smart tip. Another smart tip that I have is to think small. When you're looking to buy a single family home, don't try and buy the most enormous home out there on the market, the most expensive one. Start off small. Start with a little, maybe 2-bedroom home or something like that that can help you to get started, and it can help you can rent it out and still generate money. But you also want to make sure that you have the ability to pay this mortgage, because while you're waiting on your renters to go ahead and pay your mortgage, you are responsible to cover this loan and this mortgage that you have taken out if you took a loan out to get this property. Another piece of advice I would give is don't go somewhere that you don't know. If you're not familiar with the area, let's say you want to purchase a piece of property on the west side of Chicago, but you've never visited the west side of Chicago, that may be an issue for you. You want to make sure that you know who's living there, the type of people, everything. You want to know something about the neighborhood. You don't want to just kind of go in blind, unknowing and unfamiliar with the territory and the prices and everything. So that's another big strategy. I know that people at times are willing to dive into an area or maybe even invest out of state. But if you don't know that area and you don't have someone that's working with you that knows that area very well, I would suggest that you do not move in that direction. So, and also, you may notice in the market that some houses are priced cheaper. Well, they're priced cheaper for a reason. There may be more work that may be needed, or the area may not be the best area in the world for you to invest in. That's something we have to do our research on. We have to do our due diligence and just find out all about these areas before we actually spend our money on doing so. You also want to figure out what is the right rent price. We don't just come up with numbers out of our head and say, oh, I'm just going to charge $2,500 to rent this 2-bedroom property. You want to know what other properties are being rented for, or else you're kind of pricing yourself out of the market. So again, you want to make sure that you can go and have a trusted friend, a real estate agent, an attorney, somebody that knows that area and knows the market and can actually help you set the correct price for your rental property without you kind of bidding yourself out of the market. And that's very important. So number 5, I'm going to say, as far as a smart move, you got to be ready to get your hands dirty. You can't, you want to get in there, you want to dig in, if something needs to be done and you're renting your property out, there are times where you may not have the money to call a handyman or call, someone to come out and fix the issue. You might have to get in there and get your hands dirty. And that's all a part of being a landlord. It comes with the territory. And so if you're not that type of person, you don't want to get your hands dirty, you don't want to get out there and cut that grass or fix that window, you may want to reconsider becoming a landlord and maybe just find someone that you can invest in, because at times you are definitely going to have to jump right in and get your hands dirty. I mean, that's always the best type of manager anyway on any profession, is when you're overwhelmed and you're swamped in your job and your manager can jump right in and kind of help you and solve some of the problems. That's the same thing as being a landlord. So we want to make sure that we're ready for that. Smart move number 6. Get some professional help. Don't try and go at this alone. And by professional help, we're talking about even if you have a handyman in your family, people that know carpentry, attorneys, real estate agents, anyone that can help you become more successful is someone that you want on your team before you start to become a landlord. You want to have your team together, so that way when you are dealt a bad hand or you face issues, if you will, it's easier to solve that problem because you already have your team in place versus going out now to find and create a team that you did not have before. And then our final tip, smart move in general, is just keep your tenants happy. Tenants actually play a big role in landlords' happiness and their own happiness. You want to make sure that your tenants are happy, and happy hearts make happy money. Happy hearts, if your tenants are happy, they'll be happy to pay rent. If your tenants are happy and they, nothing is leaking in the apartment and the bathroom works and nothing is broken, the tenants are happy to pay their rent. But the second that one thing is not working, and the second that you kind of take your time on fixing it, is the second that tenants start to become not so happy. And they talk about possibly even withholding rent. And that's not a good thing that you want to even deal with as a landlord. You want to make sure that you have a clear, concise understanding with your tenant about how things are going to be done, the contract that they've entered into, when rent is due, how late they can be, and the terms after the fact if they are late for some reason. So the next thing, I just want to, have some tips and some information, so I'm just going to keep on going right now. Keys to successfully managing your own personal rental properties. If you have to be your own property management company, it's not the end of the world. It's actually fairly simple, but when it gets to the legality of it all, you want to make sure that you have an attorney that's on your side that can help you with everything that you're doing. So when you're renting an apartment or a home, you pretty much, everything is simple. You get a lease. You have your tenant sign the lease. You make it understood what day the rent is due and what their grace period is. And their grace period can be 5 days. It can be 10 days. It's up to the landlord. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge the fact that rent or mortgage has to be paid on this property that you're renting out. So you can't offer too much leeway. You just want to make sure that everything, any repairs or maintenance, you have already kind of budgeted out for any type of repair issues, and do a realistic budget. Don't do a budget that is so far under the actual price that you're going to end up house poor after you make these repairs. You want to over budget. You want to overestimate for these expenses like repairs and maintenance, because you'll be surprised how many things will go wrong when you have a tenant in your property. I remember I was a property management for a particular tenant, and I tell you, every single month something went wrong in that home, and we always had to come out every single month and repair it. It got to be that the repair cost outweighed almost what she was paying in rent. So I want you guys to think about that. And this again is the Sarah Renee Show, and today we are talking about if you want to become a landlord. So you want to become a landlord, you want to be become your own property manager, and we'll be here waiting on you guys to get back. We're going to take a quick break, and again, this is Sarah Renee Show on Smooth 90.5 FM HD Radio. be it becoming a landlord. So you want to be a property manager. We're giving you some tips and some ideas on what to think about before you actually become a property manager. It's not the hardest job in the world, but it's a difficult job at that. So what I'm going to do now, and I know you guys love it when I play these videos, I have a great video, very informative, about some of the things that you should think about before actually getting started to become a landlord. There are some things that you just need to kind of be aware of before you jump right in. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Let's see what this gentleman is talking of.
Put out to the world, maybe you've put out to the world, or you just started to think about and you're going to put it out to the world. And that statement is, I want to be a landlord. Now, I hear that a lot from people. I hear people say to me, oh, you're a landlord. I want to be a landlord. Or I've thought about being a landlord. But really what I've developed here is, I think to be successful with I want to be a landlord, and make sure you're in it for the right reason, is there's 5 things that you need to ask yourself. Now, these questions are going to be tough. And they need to be honest. You need to be honest. You need to be truthful when you are answering these questions, because if you don't take it seriously, you're going to end up with a mess on your hands. You're going to be miserable. You're going to lose tons of money, and you're going to be kicking yourself all the way back to the computer to watch this video and start all over again. So that you don't have to lose tons of money, you don't have to stay up sleepless nights, you don't have to eat ramen noodles for the next 10 years because you have no money left. Listen to these 5 and take them seriously. The first one is, why? Anytime you're going to get involved in this, you're buying a home, or a mobile home, or an apartment, or one apartment in an apartment complex, you're doing something, but you're doing a major purchase in your life. So ask yourself, why am I buying this? Is it for retirement? My kids' college fund? I would just like to have the extra cash flow every month. That $200, $300, $400, $500, wherever my cash flow is going to be coming into my bank account every month would be nice to have for extra play money. If it's so that you can impress somebody, if you feel like you can say at a cocktail party, I'm a landlord, I own all these properties, look at me, then click this video off, go find something else to do. Dream big, but you know what? That's not the right reason to be in this game. And so you have to ask yourself why and come up with that, because that's going to set in motion the plan that's going to help you be successful in this endeavor. The second one is, now this is if you're married, is my spouse on board? There's no reason in getting involved in something if your husband or your wife is saying, I don't think this is a good idea, I'm not behind this 100%, don't cry to me when a furnace goes out in the winter and $1,200 has to be dropped for that. You have to ask yourself these questions. If your spouse is not on board to be a team with you on this, then what you need to do is kind of build upon a success plan. Maybe find a local landlord that you can call and have them talk to that spouse about. Maybe when you're out with your banker, talking to them. Maybe showing how you've built this plan with the money set aside and the different things. So I would say, after the why, you definitely, number 2, you gotta have that spouse on board as a team. Number 3 is, can I afford this? 3. Can I afford if this property, heaven forbid, sits for 60 days, 90 days, and I'm making the payments on it? Because if you're saying, well, you know what, I'll just throw anybody in there, then you know what you're going to do is about every 60 or 90 days, you're going to be throwing someone else in there. Well, with that, you're going to be replacing carpet and paint and dealing with the damage and maybe having to evict them. So you have to ask yourself, do I have that? I personally keep $2,000 set aside for each property per year. That is kind of my nest egg, that if something goes wrong, I've got that $2,000 to throw into it. It's not a big deal. So that may not be you right at the beginning, but that's something that you want to maybe look into is, am I going to be able to afford these payments, the repairs? Am I going to be able to afford this property? And am I going to be okay with it if I need to, shell out a few bucks here and there? Number 4, very important. Am I a people person? Not just, I can talk at the water cooler with anybody about what, the game last night. But can you deal with people that are emotional, maybe not rational in their thought process? And can you be demanding at times when it comes to your rent, or making sure that they fix something that they broke, or letting them know and being firm but fair about the process and the tenant-landlord relationship and what is your expectation level with them. If you don't feel as though you can confront these people, be the level-headed one if emotions start to spark up, then maybe property managers in the beginning is a good idea to get somebody who can kind of handle that. And then after a time when you feel a little more comfortable, you can take it on yourself. But you definitely want to be able to deal with these tenants. Not everybody's rational in their thought process. You're going to deal with tons of different personality types and the way they think, and you got to make sure you get on their level and make it a win-win by not giving away the farm, but sometimes giving up a little bit to help them better understand. But dealing with those people is critical, and that's number 4. And number 5 is, what is your expectation level when you're jumping into this? Is it that, okay, I'm going to buy this property, I'm going to rent it out in 30 days, I'm going to have the money pouring in, this guy's, whoever I'm going to rent it to is not going to ever have issues. If that is your expectation level, fail. You've failed already. You will not succeed in this. You will drive yourself absolutely insane. And you'll say, why did I ever make the statement, I want to be a landlord? Because this is the worst thing ever. Because you set your expectation level way too low. You need to set it high. Have high expectations for what's going to happen. And no, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. But through time, through systems, through processes, you can increase profits, decrease stress, and you can learn how to
All right. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've got so much information from this guy. All right. Whenever you're ready, we can get back to the show. So he said a couple of really great things. One of the first things he mentioned was make sure that if you're married, your spouse is on board. There's nothing harder than to go at something like becoming a landlord without the consideration, without the love and the admiration and the go get them from your spouse. I mean, I'm not married, but I would imagine that if I was, I would really want my husband to be on board with me in this rental issue that I was going through, right? I would them, and you have to be comfortable with it. Every property manager has experienced at one point or another an irate tenant, a tenant that does not want to pay their rent, a tenant that will not let you show the property, a tenant that is just kind of like a problem child. But if you know how to talk to them and how they need you to talk to them, if you can understand them at their level and what they're going through, you'll be able to deal with them and to work with them. But you have to be emotionally ready for this job, because I tell you, it is emotional. People literally can physically, I don't want to say physical, because then we're getting into some different things, but they will attack you verbally. They will have nasty words for you, and you have to kind of get a thick skin. I know my mom used to always tell me, make sure you get a thick skin when you're going out here in the world. And regardless if you're a property manager or just going out to work in a regular day, have a thick skin. Let things roll off of you. Don't take things personal. And that's really how you have to be joining into this property management or becoming a landlord as well. You want to make sure that you can afford the property. And like I said, if your tenant decides that 1 month, let's say right around Christmas time, this happens a lot, where tenants, they don't have their rent money. And now I don't know if that's because they went off and bought Little Susie and Ben bicycles for Christmas, and they kind of overspent on their finances, and now they don't have the money for the rent. or maybe they have children, or maybe quite a few children, or maybe because of their skin color, they can really file a suit against you. I'm going to go with the tenant that I feel is best as far as my criteria is concerned. So nothing. One main thing with rentals, especially when you're getting started, trying to show the property and you want to rent it, every little thing matters. I don't care if it's a dirty rug or little bugs on the ground, because it's summertime and it's hot and the little bugs get in sometimes. Everything matters. Everyone is taking every bit of this place into consideration. The cleanliness and everything is very, very important. And I understand that everybody's definition of clean is different. So let's just think as if, our grandmother was saying, why don't you clean up this house? We want it clean the way that your grandma would have you clean up the house. Broom sweep, clean, nothing in any corners, no bugs, no riffraff, no nothing. We want to come in and see a fresh, clean house. Understanding everything that your lease says and everything that you're expecting from them. So what we want to do is we want to have a good personality, and we want to keep our professional distance, meaning that you don't always want to be involved in what's going on in the day-to-day with your tenants, but you do want them to understand and respect legally what it means to be in this lease, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, etc. So you just want to make sure that everybody is kind of understanding and on the same page with your lease. You want to make sure you have legal and some legislation. Landlords, you need to get to speed with relevant acts of legislation, and it's recommended to even maybe take a short property management course. Maybe you want to take a real estate course before you fully indulge yourself in becoming a landlord. There are some things that, I learned in real estate school that I was surprised that I re-entered into when I became a property manager rather. But it's all kind of intertwined, and I would say let's get a good jump start. Even you can just get some books off of the local website and start reading books about real estate, books about property management. Anything that you can do to help yourself will be a benefit at this point, because when you're ready to jump right in and start interacting with other people of society, you want to know what you're doing. I definitely enjoy working with people that know what they're talking about and know what they're doing before I hand over money to them. Rent collection, one of the most important factors in property management, is collecting the rent. And again, just as we heard from our gentleman on our video, you want to make sure that you have a thick skin and that you're able to tell people without becoming, how do I want to say, I guess a witch. You don't want to haunt people. You don't want to, irritate them. You want to be able to talk to them just like you would talk to your friends. Say, you know what, rent is due on the 1st. And I understand that you're having some issues, but rent is due on the 1st. And unfortunately, you do only have 5 days to pay your rent. We do prefer that you pay your rent in advance rather than towards the end of the 5-day period. However, we understand that, sometimes things happen in life. But you don't want to create a relationship with your tenant in which you cannot call and talk to them. They're not answering your calls. They're not opening the door. they know that the rent is past due and you cannot connect with them. So you want to just make sure that this rent is paid by a specific date, or you will be left holding the bag and paying the bills yourself. And you just want to make sure that you can manage everything as far as what you're able to pay out of your pocket and what you need to come from your rentor, and make sure that all of that kind of works together. Because even if your tenant decides to skip out on the rent that month, you are still responsible to pay that mortgage. As far as advertising is concerned, when you're advertising your rental property, you're really just creating competition. So you want to generate a good blend of competition so that you know that you're priced right, and you know that the people in the area are looking at your some ironclad leases. I remember I worked for a company before, and they had some leases, but the leases were not specific to our state, and that's very important. Any type of anything like that. No age, no the fact that this person is on a government assistance program. We don't want to discriminate by any of that. But when you do look at a tenant, you want to look at the tenant. You want to look at the facts. You want to really come up with this information before you start sitting down with tenants. What are we going to look at? What is our criteria for accepting a tenant? Our criteria should be their credit ranges between this score and this score. Now, you may be very understanding of people who have had credit issues, and you may want to rent to them specifically. So you may want to, rent within the 530, 550, something around those lines. You actually would like to, if you had access to, check their background and make sure that they have not gone to different, properties and been evicted from those properties. You want to make sure that that they're an upstanding tenant, that they pay their bills on time for the most part. Now, life happens. Everybody runs into problems. And you can definitely be that landlord that opens your heart, listens to someone's story. I just had another baby, and unfortunately I'm not able to pay this full amount of rent. Is there any way that you can work with me and help me in this instance? And some landlords may do it, some may not. But you could definitely be that landlord to actually open up and give someone a chance. I mean, there's nothing wrong with giving someone a chance. It's maybe a little riskier than than finding someone with a 700 credit score. But at times, we do have understanding, and we do want to offer an opportunity to give a chance to individuals. So we have some breaking news. There is a severe thunderstorm warning that is going on until 8 p.m. and that's in the counties of Boone, Lake, and McHenry, Illinois. There's a flash flood warning effective until 10:15 p.m. for Walworth County in Wisconsin. And you can stay tuned to our program or to a local news station just to see what's progressing with the weather report. We will definitely make sure that if any additional news is is needed, that we will let you know. I would definitely stop all my real estate show information. But there is an important severe thunderstorm warning. We want you guys to be safe. So if there's any way for you guys to make it home, please make it home safely or get home as soon as you possibly can. So jumping back in, we're talking about screening tenants. You want to have so many steps that you're going to look at. And that way, if someone does try and bring you up on a certain charge as far as discrimination, you can say, Your Honor, these are the guidelines in which I pick my tenants. It's based off of their credit score, it's based off of their background, and it's based off of their financial income that they bring in. And I felt that this person may or may not have been acceptable. Just know that anything that you do, you have to back it up. It's going to be legal. When you're dealing with other people and when you're dealing with paperwork and leases and things like that, it's going to be a possibility that you're going to end up in court. You know, we hope that you do not end up in court, but there's a possibility that you could, and you want to protect yourself and make sure that you have all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted. I just want to take a second and just apologize. I lost my voice last week, and I know you guys may still hear some shakiness or possible sounds that my voice is not all there, but I am getting better, so I just wanted to let you guys know. I know I have a little bit of a raspy voice, but I don't think it's ever been this raspy. So just moving right along, I wanted to give you guys that information. And I hope you guys are all watching all of the political debates right now and staying informed, because we do need to get out and vote for whoever you're voting for. Just get out and vote. So jumping back into the guide to managing your own rental, you want to make sure that you have an application process. I mean, this is something it's paperwork, it's documentation, showing that you treat everybody, kind of the same way. You have everyone come in and fill out this application, and it's a standard process. Inspections are very important. A lot of times we want to make sure that we complete the inspection before we bring in tenants, so that way we can tell them, yeah, I just had this service, or I just had this inspection done less than a week ago, and these are items that are secure, and these are problem issues which we've already fixed. Because nobody wants to move into an issue. Nobody wants to move into, oh, this is broken, but we'll get to it. And they kind of want to move in with everything working and working order, and so that their family can just enjoy a nice place to stay. You may want to get a rental appraisal, or possibly so that you may be able to get a rent increase. Again, we need to really consider what the market is saying on rentals in that area. How many bedrooms, how many baths, and that will really determine how much rent you can actually get from a certain property. We want to make sure that we can get an appraisal. If you are having a hard time and you don't want to work with the real estate agent by chance, you can go and get a rental appraisal, in which case someone will come out and appraise your house similar to how they would appraise it if you were selling it on the open market, but they will give you a rental price. Any repairs and maintenance that you want to make sure that you keep abreast of what is going on in your properties. You want to make sure that all of those issues are important to you, even though you're not the person actually living in the house. And I know that at times that can become an issue because sometimes we don't live in a certain property. We don't take it as seriously as it is because someone else is living in our property. We want to take everything very serious, all of our repairs and maintenance issues, and we want to just make sure that everyone is happy and satisfied in our properties, and that there are no issues, especially with repairs, because repairs is where tenants can start pulling the rent. If it's uninhabitable, after so long, they can definitely withhold rent, and that's other knowledge that you should know. You should speak with your attorney about. It's a lot of different things that tenants can actually do if you're not being forthright in repairing their property. And that's just a little extra information for anyone that's interested in becoming a landlord or property manager. Just stay on top of everything. Stay on everything as if it was your own house. That's probably my best advice. So, one of the key reasons that a landlord might consider an option like this is to save money. And keep in mind that costs are tax deductible, but you will be claiming to reduce your taxable income. So it's a lot of different breaks and tax breaks and things that you can get when you own a property and when you're renting it out. Please make sure that you go and talk to your attorneys about everything. Again, I am not an attorney. I can only suggest that you go and be forthright and you talk to your attorney about everything that you're trying to do in advance. So, next week we're going to have a great show, and we're going to have a guest on the show. This guest in particular actually talks a lot about, having pretty much a life after death. Having property after death without having a will. So I'm really interested on what he's going to bring to the table and what he's going to tell us. Because if you remember, we had a show just a couple of weeks ago where we talked about wills and what you need to do and what you don't need to do. So we're going to have this gentleman on. His name is Mario. He's going to come in and talk about in the state of Illinois how you can transfer your home, your car's checking and savings account without a will. So everybody come back next week, same time, same channel, Smooth 90.5 FM HD Radio. I'm your girl, Sarah Renee. Tune in next week, and we'll be back with more information for you. Talk to you soon. This is Sarah Renee. Tune in every Thursday from 7 till 8 p.m. for great information. Hey, this is Sarah Renee. Tune in every Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. for great information. You are tuned into Smooth 90.5 FM, and this is the Sarah Renee Show. You are tuned into Smooth 90.5 FM, and this is the Sarah Renee Show. You are tuned into Smooth 90.5 FM. Get serious. Get serious, have fun, and buy your home on the Sarah Renee Show. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Get up, wake up.
'Better, better, 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 better.